Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and we're going to be talking about some new breakthroughs in recovering your health. A lot of new technology and a lot of new treatments are out there, and we're going to try and cover them the best we can. And we're going to try and start doing these webinars more often just to kind of keep you all informed and abreast of what we're doing and get you excited about getting well. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and again, if you all have any questions, please type them in the question menu part of the GoToMeeting menu screen. I can type them in there, and I can also respond via typing to you, or we can answer them out loud as well. So please, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and let's start a good webinar. Thank you very much for being here.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is our first try at this in a couple of years, simply because there wasn't much new going on, except that we were doing a lot of research and trying to find ways to help the health of complex people. We're broadcasting live from Short Pump, Virginia, and then, my opinion, it is the capital of biophysics and biophysical medicine and rehabilitation, especially if you exclude Russia, Romania, and Germany. So, and maybe 100 other countries. So we seem to be behind in this little bit of a race in the sense that we don't have some of the right assumptions, and I want to talk tonight about what we've discovered about life at the cell and below, which would have been inspired by a man named Gerald Ling in the 1960s who just talked about these kind of things, and his, shall we say, his hypotheses and theses were at times rejected, but eventually became true. So what we want to talk about actually is how wonderful the results that we're starting to see as a result of going deeper and deeper, beyond epigenetics, beyond MTHFR, trying to restart the body. If you have no energy to get better, you can't get better. So the first thing that we want to talk about is that even I have been making these false assumptions for years. There's a couple of them, and there's three that we'd like to talk about. The first one we'd like to talk about is the fact that we don't treat symptoms, we treat people here. But the problem is that the standard science has really wanted to make it a symptom-based problem. When we see problem, reaction, solution. So we have a problem, we create a medicine for it, and now you have your solution. So problem, reaction, solution is the way we do that. We should treat the symptoms as a false assumption. We should treat the cause. So we call it mapping the causal chain. So we want to treat the cause, not the symptom. Otherwise, you end up with a polypharmaceutical approach or even a polynutritional supplement approach. It's important to treat the cause. The second one is water is H2O. Well, actually, in the body, water is H3O2, and we will talk about that because it's important for the body to communicate at its highest level, and when there's not enough hydrogen or oxygen or what they call pH, potential hydrogen molecules, then we lose our information transfer. And this, of course, is the feature of tonight. The space between particles is empty. It's a quantum physics issue because in reality, the space between particles has frequency and oscillation and a richness that gives life a beautiful blueprint. So I'm pretty excited about talking to that. We think that Herman Cox, a NASA scientist or intelligent, I don't know, he did a lot of things with a lot of special projects. And so he's going to join us at about 7:30 from the road in Alabama. So what we want to talk about is first, mapping the causal chain. When you have chapped lips, you could be dehydrated, but nobody ever says that. If you have chapped lips, you could need targeted nutrition. If you have chapped lips, you could have gut dysbiosis. The easy way to treat it is we go and get chapstick. Now, I'm not against chapstick because I got to tell you, it was founded and made from 1880s right here in Richmond, Virginia. So instead we use chapstick and we never get to the cause. Recently we've seen a lot of psoriasis, people with psoriasis and things like that, and so we need to get to the cause or it keeps reoccurring. Now H3O2 in Gerald Pollack's work called the fourth phase or fourth stage of water, and we were early on. I had lunch with him probably at California Institute maybe 3 to 4 years ago, and there's a double helix water. There was a big water craze because what we hear and see is I drink water all day long. How am I still dehydrated? Mainly because the water in the body is not being taken up because it doesn't have the right structure. The body's water is not actually H2O, it's H3O2. Japanese kind of see this. They have a lot of engineering work on a hydrogen-enhanced water. We have one of those here, and we do H3O2. We don't really worry about all the pHs and stuff like that, except when you put an extra hydrogen molecule, it helps structure the water with extra hydrogen molecules and in a way that's acceptable to the body. So you can drink water all day long, and if it's dead water. Now, why is that an important thing right here, right up front? Because if you don't have hydration, if your collagen isn't plump, you can't carry the information that the medicine wants to tell you. Here's an interesting side note. Medicines are, in fact, constructed and made in structured water, even the allopathic medicines. Now, Jerry Pollack wrote a book and talked about easy water, and that's exclusion zone and structured water, and it can be customized. Now, what we're very excited about is that an internationally licensed product is coming back to Living Well today. Again, with Herman Cox, we're going to be actually getting the rights to I won't call it a Yeti, because it's not a Yeti, but it has the ability to structure water right in the cup and give you structured crystalline type water. We're even using it with teas and restructuring teas and putting frequency in it, maybe a little bringing it back to life. Life started in water, water needs life. So the crystalline structures in that water carry information. And one thing that we lack today is the idea that information is any part of our treatment, because information is stored beautifully in water, and it's stored in your collagen, and these are old homeopathic ideas. Physics animates chemistry. The blueprint of life is really in the physics and the oscillation. It seems that it creates something called the human dynamic field, or the human, basically the human field. And so what we love there, the biofield, is we're trying to reestablish the basic blueprint of life. Now, you can only imagine with me that a lot of things disturb that, including toxins from the environment, electromagnetic frequencies. The cells are disorganized. The cells can't show up and do what they need to do when they need to do it. So the problem is, we see it actually in beehives. We see it probably in things like birds falling out of the sky and whales beating themselves because they don't know how to navigate this current electromagnetic environment. The idea that space is empty, the further we went, because we've worked, I don't know how many years, Aaron, 15 years, looking at, boy, we loved studying with Amy Asko, and we studied with a lot of people, and we became interested in methyl tetrahydrofolate polymorphisms. We've studied with people who help us with homeopathy concepts for 5 to 10 years, the leaders in all the industry. But when it came down to it, there was this space, and if the space is disorganized, there's no chronobiology, and the subatomic particles of your body can't respond, just like the bees, the fish, and the birds. So there are these oscillations, low-level magnetic frequencies, biophotons and frequencies. Electrons and biophotons are often disturbed by the environment. I think what is beautiful about life, the further we've gotten deeper into this, the more we see, my goodness, it looks just like a Silicon Valley creation when you look all the way down at the bottom. So we have to be in touch with those frequencies because physics animates chemistry. So why in the modern world would we focus on biochemistry all the time when electrodynamic field determines your health? That's a good question, isn't it? That's why we're starting to see the words cold laser, low-level magnetism therapy, and other things start to enter the vernacular of regular allopathic medicine, because you don't send a plumber to do electromagnetic work. So the Solomar principle is that we are affected the most at one place. The root of all disease is the electromagnetic frequency, and the change that we're seeing in all disease and all aging issues is that the mitochondria dysfunction caused by environmental toxins, stealth pathogens, and altered electron and biophoton flow inhibit the body from having enough energy to rest or to recover. The reason is, again, because we all think that correlation equals causation. Again, I have chapped lips, I need chapstick. But in reality, I may have cellular toxicity, and there's a lot of cellular toxicity today. The stealth pathogens are there, but more importantly, the environmental pieces of chemistry. But we even make our own, and a lot of people don't recognize that in our metabolic dysfunction, we make things like aldehydes and ammonias and lactic acids that actually fill up the cell and short circuit its production of energy. A more sinister kind of thing is stealth pathogens, and I've been working with these so long that I don't think they're stealth, because they're right there in front of you. They're called cytomegalovirus, and now we're seeing things like Ehrlichia and Rickettsia, and those are more in the vector-borne illnesses, but cytomegalovirus is one, mycoplasma is another. They seem to be pretty rampant, especially when people are in close proximity to medical health care. The electromagnetic frequency, I do have people that I deal with that are in the know, and they say when we go to 5G, there's even more disruption. When there's a hadron collider on Earth, the Earth changes as well. We basically may have created a CAT scan that we live in every day. So what happens is these 3 or 4 things start, and including hypoxia, start to starve the cell, and you simply do not have enough energy to get better. Without cell health, there is no health, because the cell becomes oxidatively stressed and filled with metabolic waste. In simple terms, your cells are drunk. And when they're drunk, the matrix is drunk, and the information that we say animates life cannot travel. Causation rather than correlation, again. The loss of cellular energy is the first thing that occurs. In this kind of slide here, you can kind of see, if you start to see it in a 3D and wrapped here, one of the things that happens is stealth pathogens, they look more like jellyfish, so they enter into and become absolutely a part of mitochondria, where bacteria kind of bounce off of all of this. When toxicity kind of is resisted by, it might be out around here, but an actual stealth pathogen takes over the whole cell. You stop to make, you will no longer make ATP, and it is the currency by which cells talk to each other. Mitochondria dysfunction. That's when it starts. And so now we saw this, we got this really from autism. We saw 5,000 autistic kids. And I still say this every time I speak. If I have MDs, PharmDs, and MomDs. There were groups of moms that were so smart that sent me hours and hours of their research to help me to understand their children. They used their time and their treasure for a rather hideous kind of, I won't say hideous, but just it seems like it was caused by a lot of environmental issues that we do not have time to discuss tonight. But then we came on later and we saw the same thing. I spoke at Lyme-induced autism in 2009, and we became Lyme specialists. And so we helped more people and tried to help people with Lyme, and went out, we kept drilling down, and we can't find anything else. We can talk about MTHFR, but if you have no cell health, you have no way to express your genetics. If you're not firing on all cylinders, your genetics are malexpressed, so they're not very predictable. We talk about gut dysbiosis. Yeah, that's great. Without cell health, you can't run your gut. We talk about the foods to eat, and when you're this sick, the food is not the matrix. You've got to get a jump start in the energy. So the causation rather than the correlation, the causation is loss of cellular energy. So people with complex issues have few treatment options. And so we are trying to present you new series of treatment options that we think are both coherent, relevant, and have not sometimes even been thought of before. So in our care management, we're bringing to you, we want to share with you 5 ideas that have been developed over the past 2 years that are helping people with their recovery. And I hope you appreciate them as much as we have seen happen here. It's been rather astounding. Again, people with serious Lyme disease, they're so sensitive. People with autism, we have some great stories. But one grandmother always said, but Mike, he's great, but he still has autism. So it's not like it's a heal everything at all times, but these are the cutting remedies that bring change and comfort to people. Now, the first one, look at that, T5 remedies. These are something that you can buy without on our website, or talk to Aaron or Colleen or Janet. And the T5 remedies are 5 remedies, homeopathic remedies that I created with a fellow named Mike Ledger at Homeodynamics that represent the algorithm by which we treat. Being homeopathic, they open up the pathways by which we want to help you with, because these are the most, shall we say, compromised pathways that need to have help before you even get here. So the T5 remedies, it's short for Thrive with 5 remedies. We don't need any more than that to get started. But now we want to get to the work. The next thing you do is you book an appointment after you take those remedies for 21 days, and you book an appointment. You may book that appointment ahead of time because, it's not always available what you like. So T5 remedies are 5 remedies that help with stealth pathogens, that help with restoring brain function, which help with reducing fatigue and cognitive distortion, is the way we're really supposed to say it. The next step, Harvard researched, David Sinclair brought something called NAD to the market, and SmithKline said, well, I'm not sure it's a real drug. And they went back and they got the same results, so they brought it more as a supplement. It's called nicotinic AD, because I can't say the last 2 words, they're too big. But sometimes there's a different version of it called nicotinic ribose, and it's a structured sugar that allows the nicotine to get back in the cells. Strangely enough, we've looked at Chaga tea and other based remedies for a lot of years. From our Chinese medicine connections, we use Chaga tea, but Chaga is not unique to, say, China. It is Russian, it is Alaskan, and we use a crock-pot version of Chaga tea, and we place other remedies in that to restart and act as a blood tonic to, again, charge you. As you can see, the issue is often that you do not have enough spleen qi or enough energy to get better. No energy, no recovery. It's like shining up a car, put the black on the wheels, fill up the tank, getting ready to go to town, and there's no battery. The batteries are compromised. So the first 5 remedies, T5 remedy, NAD, Chaga tea, we're discussing the rest of them later. In-house treatments, we have continued to pioneer the use of frequency recovery for brain and for autoimmune issues. Low-dose prescriptions. We have an affiliated strategic partner that uses Skype for calls and can use medicines at the low-risk medicines such as low-dose Alinea, low-dose naltrexone, and others. NAD is, in fact, a prescription. They use it, so here we go. Let's start talking about those. The T5 remedies are homeodynamic, created by Michael Payne and Michael Ledger. They will be available to you starting in early November. The first one starts with the immune system, and we want the immune system then to talk to the brain. We want the mitochondria to come alive, and then everybody's talking, including the endocrine system and the emotion. Now here's the interesting part. In 1998 at Medical College of Virginia, they taught this. It's called chronobiology. They talk about psychoneuroimmunology. 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 All systems talk to each other. The reason that we're putting this together for the Jumpstart, because if I'm going to do a better job for you and get you to be the best version that you are, then you need to have the mechanism in place. The pathogens are poisoning the communication of the body. So the first one that we're using, and we're very excited about right now, and we're doing it by prescription in nasal spray. So this is breakthrough number 1. The purpose of NAD is to heal your brain. If you have a psychoneuroendocrinology or psychoneuroimmunology model, what are you going to treat first? Everybody wants to treat the gut, but I've got to get the communication right in the brain. We've got to provide healing material for the brain. It just can't be fish oil, okay? Fish oil is great, but you're not a fish. So we need to use something, a material that's one of the elemental materials of life. Life probably started with iron, sulfur, and nicotinic acid. The usage is by nasal spray, but you know what? We have other delivery systems. We use it for repairing the brain. But we also have NAD patches, NAD spray, and one of our favorites for the past 3 years, Mito Synergy. You got to know how to dose that one right and for how long to take it. But it is a chelated copper that is chelated into an NADH molecule. Now, what I will say to you, without this Jumpstart, again, what happens is the cell falls apart. But what we're trying to do here is to keep the oxidative stress and create coenzyme activity in the brain. Breakthrough number 1. Breakthrough number 2 is kind of not a breakthrough. I mean, people have kind of known about Chaga tea for a lot of years. But we've combined it with other things. It grows on birch trees in the northern hemisphere. The best seems to be in Russia and Alaska. So we use Alaskan Chaga because we like the guy who picks it for us. It's available in tea bags and tinctures and powders and chunks. But the way you prepare it, and you might want to look at this, the way you prepare it brings the richness of it out. One of the things that's in a product like this, and Canada has some of these great tall trees, it's called a triterpene sterol. Here's an interesting thing. I have a friend named John at Stanford, and he teaches me a lot. And he says, I said, John, we're using essential oils from trees, and they're doing really good. They fight all of these bugs. And he says, yes, Mike, but do you know why? And I said, well, no, John. And 2 hours later, I actually knew why. It actually acts like, well, you're not allowed to say it, but I will. You know, it's an anti-everything. How about that? That's the best way. It has polyphenols, adaptogen, amino acids. It is a tonic for your blood and it has many, many uses in brain and immune issues. But what is the magic is that we create a combination of Chaga tea and chuchuasca and ginkgo, and we bake it basically in a crock pot, creating a rich, rich remedy. Now, you can always buy that by tincture, and we have no problem with that. But if you're adventurous and you still have a crock pot, it might be, and I didn't say crack pot, I said crock pot. It's still a good way to do it because the richness of Chaga tea with a dandelion, a richness with a spleen chi, with a ginkgo, the richness with a burdock, with a richness of Eli Jones' 1919 remedies will give your blood the tonic that it needs to recover. A couple of months ago, I was interviewed by Dan DePompa, I'm sorry, I always say that. He looks nothing like Louis De Palma from Taxi. He's exactly opposite. So true cellular detox is a really great concept. True cellular detox, once you stir all of this up, everybody's looking for that magic binder. Some people take a lot of chlorella, some people take modifilin, all those kind of things. But ultimately, the way it's metabolized in the cell is inefficient, and we need deeper cellular detox. So detox at the micro level became very important. It was inspired by Dr. Pompa, and with a breakthrough technology, because they fractionated the zeolite down to 528 Dalton weight, which means theoretically it passes through a healthy or a moderately healthy pump on the membrane. So fix the cells, you get well. So binding ammonia, aldehyde, lactic acid out of those cells is supremely important in our process. Now, you need to see what is going on here. And I don't really want to talk a lot about this, but tonight, in just a few minutes, you got an email today, and you probably saw it, that said, come and visit us. On the left here, right here, is something we now call the QuBIT 300. And that is an important breakthrough. It's a shielded environment, meaning it shields you from all the EMFs because it's built that way. Let's just put it that way. Then it offers 5 technologies inside that are very subtle. Some of the medicine in the world at this point, it's a vibrational technology. I'll talk about it in a second. But what happens in the QuBIT, and it's named QuBIT, Q-U-B-I-T, Quantum Bioinfusion Technology, simply because if you don't organize the cells at the subatomic particle levels, they don't know where to go and when to do it. The QuBIT 300 is an infusion technology. It's very subtle energy. And the reason you want it subtle is, aren't we all tired of filling a water balloon with a fire hose? We've got to reestablish your health at the cellular and subcellular level. Here's John. John is my favorite autistic recovery story, because when he came here, he ran around and didn't have a very good experience. We had to do the consult outside, and now he comes in and puts on what we call biophotonic modulator, and designed by Dr. Lou Lim. We have other frequencies, but he really wants to do it all. And as we did the biological part, we also did the physical part, and John is having a much better life here 5 years later. Believe me, it takes time. The second technology, their third technology you see, is that we have a biofeedback clear mind center here. So when we want to get the aberrant frequencies of beta, theta, and the other dwarfs, that I can never name, we would like to, we do this technology, which is exciting. And then finally, my friend, we have what we call the live O2, because if we don't fill those those cells with oxygen. So this is an intense, it's not a hyperbaric, but it's a kind of a hyperbaric on the wall that takes 12 gallons of flow, and we want to bring all that in. I'm hearing some rattling there, Aaron. And then if you haven't seen something called a Tesla light, you can see that technology here and here. So let's go to the more detailed, the QuBIT 300. I named it that because 1 qubit can hold all the information in the new quantum computers in the whole world. 300 qubits can hold all the information in the universe. So everything that you need in the entire universe is inside of here. It's an envelope of biophysics that allows your body to reset. Is it 0 point? Not quite. But it brings you to a place where your body can then start to organize itself again. We have other frequencies and Schumann resonances grounding that. When we developed it, we got phone calls that would be from people who are in the know, who said, we put Schumann resonances not only in the space shuttle, but we put them in the suit as well. That's how the body in space organizes.
And Herman is online now, so the inventor of the QuBIT.
Hi, Herman. Are you there?
There, Herman?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Herman is from Alabama. He's pulling off on the side of the road to talk to us a little bit tonight. Herman, we just introduced the QuBIT 300, and I just want you to take about 2 or 3 minutes and tell people what the idea was behind it, because you and I have been working on this about 3 to 4 years, and you've been actually imagining it for most of your life. So just tell them what it does and what the discoveries that we have found over the past 3 months as we've unfolded this story.
Okay. I'll start back about 40 years ago when I was working with the government Department of the Air Force, and we were working with quantum physics, scalar energy, and other things for electronic warfare, and I took the bad and actually created good out of it. So I'd also been working with the Tesla systems about that long too. I've studied Tesla ever since I was about 8 years old. I just got intrigued with it and just kept following it all the years. But I got my doctorates in engineering science and psychology, and I figured I'd best go in and put all of this to a working unit, because as we met about 5 years ago or so, I think, at the Physicians Roundtable Conference in Tampa, we discussed this. So we come up with what we call a spiritual unit. It's a big unit that's a spear, and we were driving energies in a cone shape, pushing them and pulling them in 2 directions, using the Tesla energy systems and frequencies and energy systems implied into the spear. So as we discussed, we needed something smaller to use in clinics. So we come up with the QuBIT. You name the QuBIT. We come up with the first unit in your operation in Richmond, Virginia. We now have one in Colorado, Estes Park, Colorado. We've worked pretty close with Chinese medical people and other people from around the world. And what we decided to do was to condense this thing down and add enough energy to help the body so you become the nucleus in the center of the QuBIT. And what we do is we derive energy forces that collapse on each other equally. And when they collapse, they go in a conical shape and they spear around and start surrounding the body. We're able to get you in you need to be in a meditative state, so it helps you get in that meditative state. And we're able now to port in energy where we need it at certain organs connected with anatomy, and the frequencies connected to the anatomy also. So basically, we're putting you in a situation where if you're open enough in your mind, you can actually heal thyself, I call it, with us implying the energies and the frequencies that you need to help you. And so I kind of leave it with that as a basic start to it. If you have any more questions, I'm willing to answer anything.
Well, Herman, I always tell them that there's 5 technologies. What I didn't tell them, they are the 5th technology. And you, Herman, have a degree in behavioral science, a doctorate in behavioral science. And so you know that if we apply these proper frequencies and that they can get into that meditative state, then it is very powerful for quicker recovery.
Yes, because, you know, you can heal yourself mentally if you allow your body to go and your mind to go there. It's been proven for thousands of years, and so, you know, over here in the U.S. and other countries, and now everything's hustle and bustle. So you needed some way to condense the energy and shield out the outside environment around you to give you time to heal, but time to try to heal yourself. So that's where the QuBIT originated from, was that process. There was a need for it, and it's basically like a laboratory. You go inside the laboratory. So your body will accept the energies if your mind allows you to accept them. Mm-hmm. And so all we're doing is giving you a catalog of frequencies that you can apply to your ailments. And these are known frequencies for years. Everything is induced in frequencies now. So what we're doing is introducing the frequencies to your total body, and your mind is able to go there, so you're able to heal yourself or help yourself.
Now, Herman, earlier, I'm going to shift just a little bit, and earlier I said something about structured water and H3O2 and imprinting. I'm kind of excited about a new idea that not new idea, you have patent pending on a method and internationally licensed technology to structure water on a personal basis. Is that it? Did I get that right?
Yes, pretty much. We right now almost 2 years now. It's been tested in China. We've been working with some of the largest water producers in China. We're able to structure the water, filter the water, at the same time remove the metals and the particles and the particulates that need to be removed out of the water. We're actually structuring the water, realigning the water, infusing it with frequencies and energies that need to be there. And now, the stage I'm at right now is I'm working on the new patents, and we're going to be able to brew teas, cold brew teas in the same bottle. So you're going to be able to use vibrational frequencies that basically mimic the life of the tea when it was growing. And so you're bringing back the tea back to life. So at the same time, we're able to infuse frequencies in there to restructure the DNA of that water using basically a 528 DNA readjustment. And the water has a memory, so we're implying the memory. And when you drink the tea, if you using the QuBIT also, I put the QuBIT in there also, we're able to induce the frequencies to the organ and the ailments you may have. So the results ought to be totally remarkable for this process, and nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it. So
something hidden very nicely throughout the 90s was that there were something called the Ciba-Geigy effect, and a guy named Guido somebody used frequencies to restore DNA to the seed. So he could literally create a garden in a heritage kind of way back to where they used to be. And so, of course, that technology was acquired and somehow disappeared. This is not necessarily that technology, but what an amazing idea to bring life to even a tea and having structured water which will then talk to your body. It's called exclusion zone water. These are not new concepts, folks. These are so important to the physics of your body. If we do not have physics surrounding your body, then you can't have the blueprint of life for restoring your body. So, Herman, is there anything else you'd like to say about these technologies? Because I know it's been a lifelong dream, and for some reason you decided that I could help you with this. I'm not even sure how that happened, but I'm thankful you did.
Well, I believe in you and Aaron and your process, and I've had several hundreds of people that I've talked with, and you were the only guys that actually hit the nail on the head. And I said, well, these are the guys, and they can handle this technology. Now, back to the structured water process, you were bringing up some things about Ciba-Geigy. What happens is you can take this structured water and infuse a 528 frequency into a seed, and you can plant a seed or contain a seed under a cup or whatever in a laboratory situation, one with the frequency, one without the frequency, one with the structured water, one without. The other seed will outgrow the other one by triple in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So it does work.
We've seen that experiment repeated and repeated. The way that we experimented with is when we infused our water with 528 and gave it to the dogs. Old dogs danced. That's all I'll say. So,
yeah. And that's the main frequency I apply to the water during the structuring process is 528. But we can actually digitally put any frequency in there that's needed. So
528 seems to be the universal frequency for restoring the blueprint of life. Now, Herman, you'd be really proud of what's on the screen right now, of the pictures of your work and how we've dressed it up. So it's a good combination. And so we thank you for your effort here. It is pretty amazing what is happening to people that finally rest for the first time. We've actually seen people start to triple their sleep cycle, from 45 minutes to 3 hours and 45 minutes. So we thank you for your work and your dream, and thank you for letting me be a participant in that. So we're going to go to the next place, but we thank you a lot, Herman. Thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, and like I said, the next generation is already in the works in my lab, and it's a very portable system, and it's an additive to what you have now. And I'm telling you, it's a great thing what we've now come
I
up
think
with.
chiropractors and acupuncturists and other energy people are going to be interested in it eventually, but the Cellular Institute is proud to be the one testing and creating the protocols here in our laboratory and in our clinic.
Okay, so, if I can help you in any way, just let me know.
Okay, we will, Herman. Thanks for your good work.
Thank you, Aaron.
Okay. So we're going to move on and say that actually sometimes we have another friend, that a friend of the practice that is internationally by Lynn Taggart. I was in one of his articles in What Doctors Don't Tell You in the international area. It was called Waves of the Future. It was written about a year or two ago, mainly in Europe, and it finally hit the United States, and I didn't even know it was in the magazine. But Jimmy Holman at Pulse Technology, and for some people, we use BCX, and it is a pretty amazing technology as well. Jimmy Holman has pioneered in some of the technology there may be, in fact, years ahead of anything. But sometimes we just need good old BCX Ultra as well. So we use frequency medicine. We also, what we call in-house medicine or create your own home clinic. These are available for purchase under our guidance. We have one last step that we think has been pretty amazing. We've had an MD here for, shall we say, 6 years, and we didn't have our protocol defined. And then as we defined our protocol, we noticed that we did need medicine from time to time. And so I have an MD here, that fee-for-service, that supports the Solimar solution. We will give you codes for insurance procedures, and we do the Skype appointments for the low-risk kind of things, prescriptions. But here's the deal. NAD nasal spray will repair your brain, and if you are concerned about anti-aging, you should be on NAD nasal spray. People who have long-term issues with parasitic and SIBO, other issues like that, my goodness, there's a great drug out there called Alinea. And we use it in a little bit different way, and we have worked directly with the Romark Corporation. We worked with the bench scientists, and we've looked at low-dose Alinea as a viable candidate over time to help with significant gut and bowel issues. Now, the one that gets sometimes a couple that get get a little controversial, but they don't have to be. Low-dose naltrexone, a major step. Dr. Bahari in 1983 created that for his friend of his daughter who had MS. He actually was the bench scientist. Naltrexone is used in alcoholism. But when he figured out that opiates being generated from a sick intestine demyelinated the brain, there's been an underground movement for a lot of years to use naltrexone, and it's called low-dose naltrexone. And if you don't know that, you can look it up as LDN and the communities of LDN. So we have a strategic partner that helps us with that work, and we're very proud to be associated with her. So the last thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you for being here. I think we brought you new technologies, breakthrough protocols, and if you want to participate in any of those health devices or protocols that we talked about, you can buy, starting November 15th, all the I-5 remedies on your own. The way I'd love to see you is if you took the I-5 remedies right now and then booked your appointment, and then we can tailor to the greatest extent. This is personalized. This is not medicine. This is personalized rehabilitation for the complex patient. We don't want to practice medicine. We are post-issue. We're just trying to help you rehabilitate your nervous system, your endocrine system, and your immune system so you can be the best version of yourself. You can call 804-562-8554 or check us out at livingwelltodayinternational.com. So again, thank you, and we will take questions now if we can, Aaron.
Okay, now is the time. If you have any questions, please just type them in the question bar, and we will answer them the best we can. Okay.
Do you have a question or no questions at all? Some people...
Patsy Wilson was curious if is it necessary to visit our clinic? We actually can offer remote consultations. We can send you the Zyto hand cradle, and we can do those all over the world. And you can also do Skype appointments with Dr. Powell. And all you have to do is call the office and set up your appointment, Patsy.
And the most interesting part in some cases, and unfortunately it does take money, but we can use and build what we call the Cellular Home Clinic. We really put the appropriate technologies in your house. So if you're trying to decide whether to buy a Beamer or we need to know what's best, or a biomat, we can tell you. And so we can do it all from here. We call it living room medicine, not waiting room medicine. And so we have been doing this for 10 years, minimum. And so what I would say to you, Patsy, is that we have 10,000 patients in 20 different countries. We've done the Zyto 30,000 times. That's more than anybody in the world. So we would love to be a participant in your health, but we do it. If you're not within an hour of Richmond, it's probably not worth driving. However, you can always come for what is called an intensive after we've worked with you for about 6 months, and then you can come here and spend like a week if you wanted to. So the answer is we only, for our last 5 years or last 10 years, we work mainly remotely with everybody. And the Richmond, Central Virginia market of people, they've just now discovered Lyme disease here. It is a problem, and so now they're starting to show up. It's usually, it's been further north from here. So we'd love to help you, Patsy.
And it would just be fun to come to the clinic.
Yeah,
right.
It's kind of a biophysics. It's biophysics Disneyland.
Next question is from Gary, and he wanted to know, how do you determine the need for Zyto Detox, and how long should you take it?
Mm-hmm. Is that Gary B?
It is.
Hi, Gary B. Come on in and see me someday. I'd like to get started. Gary is a talented researcher and writer. So Gary, because no product is without side effects, we rotate the use of the micronized zeolite 1 week on, 1 week off, but your body, you can take it for a long time, but we do it for about 3 months and then we reassess. So if we start to clean you up and the metals and the aldehydes and the ammonias are gone, then it would be pretty wonderful, Gary, if if we could go off of it. But some people need to stay off of it because their metabolism is altered. So how much is determined by what we see in your treatment, but we do 1 week on, 1 week off. In some cases, folks, I took the old autism model. We do highly intensive every weekend. We start on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we go for 2 months, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. In the old autism model, it was 4 days on, 4 days off, and 3 days on. 4 days off, 3 days on. But if you don't have your pathways clear, and that's where we use the Solimar solution of detoxification, where we support the immune system and we support the brain long before we ever get to that. So it's one of the, shall we say, intermediate or last steps. Good question, Gary.
Our next question comes from Lynn, and she wanted to know about using ozone for blood cleansing.
Ozone's pretty amazing. There are, it's like everything else. Again, it depends on your status. Is that Lynn, did you say, Aaron?
Yes.
So Lynn, we love ozone. We do have ozone type of, but we don't infuse or inject ozone, but we just use it with, we use it through stethoscope earplugs, and what it does is kind of clean up that layer, especially in the lymphatic system, of toxins that kind of play with your brain. So because we are brain rehabilitation people, we don't Some people IV it and do that fancy protocol with the blue light. That is very good. But again, everyone is different, and we want to be careful to make a general statement, but it is very effective for some people. The reason we have lots of treatment available is because we are concerned everybody is different, so at least we have something for everybody. The ozone has about 20% of people have responded very positive. So, but you got to be careful. So I'm not, universally endorsing it, but it's an amazing tool. That's what I would say.
Okay. Next up is how are you using all of our new breakthrough treatments to treat chronic Lyme?
Mm-hmm. Good question. And so here's the first thing you need to know, and you know if you're asking that question, if you're here tonight, you're probably struggling with Lyme or any complex issues. It's been a struggle for Lyme, and sometimes we get it so right it's just ridiculous. We had a man in here this week, a contractor, and he's back up on top of the ladders and doing everything, and when he came, he was drinking 5 gins a night just to kill the pain. He hadn't heard of Lyme literacy. He has heard of Lyme lunacy, but not Lyme literacy. And so he was going through a lot, and we mixed him. We actually did Lyme literate antibiotic protocol with Alinea. So in his case, he was more sturdy. But a lot of people that I see, and we've had maybe 3 of them lately, where the very little vibration affects them. So here's what I would say to you. We do our best through combining them by starting, because we had children with autism were very sensitive, and even sometimes in Lyme, you have to lick the pill because everything starts a cascade. They're in a mast cell degranulation, so everything can flip a switch in their body. But here's how you would generally do it. You need energy. You need a lot of energy to recover, but your cells are sitting in a toxic waste. So the first thing that we do is sometimes we use something like a frequency type device very shortly. The Lyme community is a little bit off on the way they think about Rife and Tesla and that, because all we do in that is use it like an antibiotic. We sit there and try to kill things, and a lot of the Lyme community ends up with, what would you call it, Rife fatigue. So sometimes we have to take a homeopathy, and we have to put 1 drop of that homeopathy in a big bottle and just start there. But that's why I've developed with Mike Ledger a group of high harmonic homeopathics that get in, and maybe we just take 1 spray twice a day to start the process of activating the immune system and enlivening the cells. Sometimes we have to start with Chaga tea, so that's why it's here. So we go through an algorithm. Do we get them turned on, get the systems working, excuse me, through homeopathics? Do we feed them a blood tonic, that is Chaga tea plus very small doses of other things? Do we use a Eli Jones remedy to, again, clean the blood and start over? We have to get down. That's why I'm very excited about NAD for people with Lyme or neuroimmune, shall we say, inflammation, because we're trying to heal the brain. The reason people with Lyme often can't get better is it's a neuroborreliosis, a neurobabesia, and it's gotten into the nervous system, especially in the midbrain area. Now, these are statements not approved by the FDA, and I'm just giving an opinion and watching. So I would say to you that we start where you can start, but how they coordinate is in the circuit. The circuit is beautiful. I warm your body up on a biomat before I do anything. Then I give you oxygen. What do you need? You need heat. You need oxygen. How could that be bad? We give biophotonic, meaning laser, just a little bit of laser push to the system. And then we try to push a little more. Where I failed a lot of you, is that I tried to push too hard sometimes, and knowing I just felt like you could do more, and we've learned that in Lyme sometimes that's not possible. We do evox and clear mind when it appears that there's just too much attachment to the idea that I have to be sick. So where we get a toehold or where we get the train off the track is kind of up to your body. But we love our circuit, and we call it the Cellular circuit, and we warm your body up, we give you oxygen, give you a little bit of frequency to feel better and charged. Then we work on the way you perceive your sickness, and then we give you a 3-month protocol: repair, restore, reconnect. And if you need a drug, we now have Lyme literate Nancy Powell helping us with low dose prescriptions, not high dose. A year of high dose prescriptions may be necessary for some people, not all people. A year of high dose antibiotics, if you don't need them, is not Lyme literacy, it's Lyme lunacy. So you need to know. So you need to be aware that there are still more options. We combine them based off your body, but in general, I like running the circuit, and if that new cube, if you're here in Richmond, the new cube has been beneficial to 7 out of 10 Lyme people, but some people can't even handle vibration. So it is up to your body, but we have a coherent process of saying this is it or this is not it. And it depends on you to give us great communication for that. Okay, Aaron, is there another question?
Yes. Wait, let me go back to the top. Why is it, it's since water's been around since the beginning of time, why is it that our bodies cannot absorb it now?
Okay, well, you heard Herman talk about frequency and imprint. It's so far away, it carries frequencies. And Modo, who is either a genius or a crackpot, showed how intentionality and environment. For instance, would you drink water? Well, even now, you know, there was a joke somewhere along the way that said we used to make cars in Michigan and couldn't drink the water south of the border. Now we make cars south of the border and we can't drink the water in Michigan. Electromagnetic frequencies, lead, bisphenols, and the processing of water. Water hasn't been around since the beginning of time, processed the way it is today in municipal areas. Water is no longer H3O2. They have to, in order so everybody won't be sick, they have to treat it in a way that will change the water molecule. And if you're drinking tap water uncharged, it has no crystals in it. So structured water may become a part. Your water choice may become more important than your food choice in the future. You need structured water to be able. Why do you think Herman has so much interest in Asia? Water isn't water anymore. Food isn't food anymore. And air isn't air anymore. So what are we supposed to do to help you? So we have to come in with technologies to reverse the pollution, the frequency, and the processing that water goes through. So it isn't water anymore, I'm sorry to say. Next question, Aaron.
Okay, we have a question from Lydia. I have a question about SIBO and other uninvited bacteria, parasites, etc. Taking Dr. Pompa supplements, and one of them is causing quite a bit of side effects. Could it be the G cell? Could you advise me on why this could be?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, and we have seen the reason we call inspired by Dr. Pompa is because, you know, again, in general, Dr. Pompa is a wellness practitioner trying to break people through, and he does get the tough cases. Just like all of us, we have to get better at those cases. And some of the formulas, you know, for complicated people, the formulas can get too complicated. The answer is that, Lydia, that SIBO, and a lot of people don't know what SIBO is, but it's kind of new to as a name, but it's been around forever. It's not exactly leaky gut. What happens in the small intestine is that bad stuff leaks from the large intestine. What goes to Vegas should stay in Vegas. Nothing should come back out of the large intestine. But because the ileocecal valve and other sphincters are compromised and valves are compromised, you get a reverse GERD of bacteria going in back up into areas that shouldn't happen. They are not prepared for it. So you get a bacteria overload. Some people think it's just strep and staph, but I think it's bigger than that. It can be parasitic, and the small intestine doesn't love parasites. It's not equipped to handle it. It's a 4-alarm fire with one engine. So the inefficiency of the ileocecal valve allows toxins to regurg back up into the system. And there's a lot of people out there, Apex Energetics, and people talking about the methanes and other things that SIBO causes and throws everybody off, including your dopamine and serotonin. When you're doing Pompous protocol, and by the way, if any of you are interested in that, we have educational pieces that we like to share with people that become our clients. But SIBO in this case, yes, is it the glutathione? The way that glutathione is made, it's entirely possible. Have we had trouble with the charcoal and the humic acid? If you're taking more than one, it may be that. So you need to back off the bind, and you may need to back down on the intercellular glutathione, because I probably remember that you are in fact MTHFR, and intercellular glutathione, no matter how beautiful, does throw a lot of toxic waste off as it pushes the cells to drive harder. So the answer is yes. Either take 3 days off and go back on at a very, very low dose, or abandon it altogether until you're ready. Is there a next question, Aaron?
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Well, since the QuBIT is relatively new, how often do you think people should be using it?
A minimum of probably 2 times a week, maybe even 3, but we've seen breakthrough good work with people doing it once a week. I think people should be doing it twice a week because it does reset them. There's a place, and I think they should do it for 5 weeks in a row, and then they may never need to, well, I won't, in this environment, maybe they'll only need it every once in a while after that. So the QuBIT is new, but it isn't new. But actually, we just met with, shall we say, very important people in China, and or at least our representatives. And this has been done in Russia. When I say short pump is the capital of biophysical medicine, well, nobody else is doing it. I used to be in a big corporate job one time, and I always said I was the number 2 man in the company, but actually there were only 2 guys at that time. So the bottom line is that Russia and Romania and Germany at the Max Planck Institute has been doing this kind of work for years. Tina Curry at the Russian Institute of Medicine has been doing this work for years. Nina Silver has a book on this work for years. But you're right, the QuBIT is the first quantum shielded reset environment. We created an environment because if you don't, or if you're not shielded, you are probably not going to get the full effect of subtle energy restoration. So the theories are good. Our clinic has seen amazing things in general. If you are not prepared to be in it, we like to do a little bit of coaching before you get into it. And 2 times a week seems to reset. But then they have the energy. People have the energy to then become engaged in the rest of our treatments, and you know, as long as it doesn't tip off a Herxheimer, they start to make progress. Next question, Aaron.
Can you address how this can, it's back to the SIBO question, can you address leaky gut treatments following the SIBO and how this can help?
Is it, you mean all this energy treatment?
Yes, and your protocol.
Okay. Well, in the protocol, for instance, 1028 is a protocol, a frequency, and Herman talked about 528. So there's a series of frequencies that can be played that will, in fact, start to restore collagen. And these are university studies. You see them in the Northeast studies. You see them in Australia quite a bit. But what happens is we can get in there and start to restore collagen. We can then, for every, There's a woman named Charlotte Bone who has a patent, an international patent, that every bad guy has a counter bad guy frequency. So every bad guy has a frequency, and then every bad guy has a counter frequency. So she calculates the frequencies through a patented process that can be aimed directly at the SIBO bacteria, strep, staph, candida. And so in that case, sometimes that's where home units become very important, because you may need that treatment every day. So the idea is to come here and see if it actually works and it's amenable to your body, and then actually end up with a Rife type machine or a frequency type machine that allows those counter frequencies to be played directly at that. The beauty of these machines is that they're kind of like a little medicine cabinet. They have at least 1,000 programs in them, and there are only a few people who really know how to make them. So we've partnered with those people. So I would say to you that Rife-like frequencies can be used to restore, and that again is what the Lyme community has sometimes missed, and that we use that to restore in the protocol early. We don't try to kill anything until you're strong enough, and then you offer new frequencies for anti-frequency to the bad guys. So that's how that works. As far as the QuBIT goes, when you're in the QuBIT, you start to reset your immune system. We can't say that, but how about if we just say you're stronger in life? Then if you add some of these things like blood tonic kind of restoration, spleen tonic with our work with the Chinese, if you don't start with your spleen, everybody wants to start with your gut and your poo, but it is always about your spleen. You need energy to get better. You need to take these wonderful golden materials we're putting in your body and convert them to something that will work. And just let me tell you, we all have deficient qi, spleen qi. So that's where we're starting these days. So we backed up. If that's you know, again, we've actually even changed. That's the important part of our practice. We continue to combine the parts that we learned that were good, but we are new every 2 years because of our passion to find the issue related to chronic illness. And if I didn't make it clear, the underlying condition of chronic illness is caused by mitochondria dysfunction. So, not enough energy, you're not going anywhere. So, next question, Aaron.
Well, one thing I wanted to say real quick about the QuBIT, being a shielded environment, it actually gives your body a chance to take a breath, because we're always on this fight or flight response, and if we're always on without an off switch, our bodies can't take time and take a breath and heal. So what this does, because our bodies, when we're in that fight or flight response, our brain is always on, looking for that tiger to jump out of the woods and eat us, and we don't have any control over that. And what the QuBIT does, it allows the central nervous system to take a breath and just be like, oh, I'm safe. I can heal. I can sleep. I can regenerate. I can restore my energy. I can turn things back on because I'm not going to be eaten by that tiger. And that's been one of the biggest things I've seen with getting people in and out, is that they're just calmer. They're not always looking for that tiger after that. I know the tiger is just an example, but because we don't necessarily have to worry about it, but it might be that next bill or the illness or whatever. It's a 30-minute break from what is trying to eat you. And so it gives you a chance to really heal because your adrenals aren't on and you don't have that cortisol pumping through our veins. It's been truly amazing watching what people have come out saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, Aaron, you just actually stated the thesis of a worst boring book I ever had to read in college, and that was called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And that's exactly why. They actually reset every 20 minutes. After the lion stops chasing them, all their cortisol goes back into their long-term savings account used for the next thing, and then they just go eat and have fun. Humans don't have that, do we?
No.
So, no. Okay, so next question.
Do we have any experience with making hydrogen-rich water, tablets, ionizing, or hydrogen-producing filtration systems?
We do, and you would have to talk to Aaron about it, but we have hydrogen water filtration systems in this office right now. That's what we use. So the answer is that we used a very bright man who sourced it from Korea, and the answer is yes, we have that. Probably too long of discussion for tonight, but Korea has made the best hydrogen, or Japan have made the best hydrogen additive waters. And what is the doctor that we worked with, Aaron?
Dr. Raber.
Dr. Raber has done very deep research and written a book on hydrogen lifestyle, hydrogen water lifestyle. So the answer is it's very important, and but don't have enough information in front of me right now to help you do the full discussion. But pH is called potential hydrogen in the body. So your pH is affected, your acidity goes down, you stop leaking calcium, your cells become healthier. That's the best way I would talk about it. Sometimes I don't love the taste of it because I like good old dirty water sometimes. Not actually, I like Diamond Springs. But you know, it's still, and we even charge that water, so we are relatively diligent. We do have from a company called Research Nutritionals. Dennis Schoen, a friend of ours, has just come out with those hydrogen type pills that you're talking about. We saw that as an opportunity to enrich the mitochondria again. When the hydrogen is right, that the mitochondria work better. And where they learned most of this stuff would have been at birthing farms with lambs in Australia. If you don't have that part right, the hydrogen and the energy right in the water, the babies of the lambs are sicker. So they feed hydrogen water in Australia quite a bit on those farms. Next question, Aaron.
Let's see. I think that's about it, so we can start wrapping up if you'd like.
Well, I don't have much to say. As a close, I thank you very much for being here. I have enjoyed this. And if you want to vote to say, I get to stay late, I'll stay late and start once a month, have something called Open Mic Night, and bring you topics that we just talk about, complex anti-aging, and actually now we're getting more into hormone work, but only after you've restored your body. That's the only way to do it. Otherwise, we're always treating the symptom. So let's go beyond treating the symptom and get to the cause and actually get better and get our energy restarted so we can be the best version of ourselves. So thank you for coming, Aaron. I'll turn it back over to you.
I actually had one last question. It's how many treatments to get some relief? She lives in the Outer Banks, so it's mold is hindering her progress with Lyme. Some people in the QuBIT, it's fairly new. Some people have seen benefits right away, like after their first use. Some of it's more of an accumulative effect.
Mm-hmm.
But it really just depends on, I guess, how...
Mm-hmm. Erin, did she say she had mold?
Yes.
Well, one of the designs that I have in the the T5 Remedies, what you need to look at that. You could call Erin or Colleen and talk about detoxification through homeopathic means of the mold toxins in order to get moving in the right direction. And then you could come for 3 days, like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and see. But I think mold has always taken a little bit of a toll on the neuroimmune system, so we may need to rehabilitate you for a little while longer. But since you're only 3.5 hours away, it might be a good idea for you to come, twice a year. And then, but again, having us have remote sessions, Zytos, with you might be very effective because we do, I do usually follow Richie Shoemaker in his talks. That means I get a lot of laughs. So, because Richie is not funny, because mold is not funny. So, I would say to you that a cleanup